Change begins the moment you decide, not tomorrow, not someday, but the very instant you draw a line in the sand and declare that the old version of you is done. Most people wait for years to change their lives, always telling themselves that when circumstances improve, when things feel right, when they have more time or more money, then they'll start. But life does not respond to hesitation. Life rewards radical decisions. And the truth is, in 1 week, you can lay the foundation for a transformation so dramatic that even you will barely recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror. A radical decision is different from a wish. Wishing is passive. Wishing says, I hope things get better. A radical decision says, I will not tolerate this anymore, and I will do whatever it takes to change. When you make that kind of choice, something inside of you shifts. It's as if the universe itself bends to honor your resolve. Doors open, strength appears, clarity sharpens, but none of it begins until you decide. And 1 week is more than enough time to prove that you are serious about rewriting your story. Think about the most powerful moments in history. Wars have been ended by a single signature. Movements have been sparked by one person standing up and saying, no more. Entire industries have been disrupted because someone, somewhere, refused to accept the status quo. These weren't gradual, casual choices. They were radical decisions. And you have the same ability to make a choice today that will echo for the rest of your life. Now, you might say, can I really change in 1 week? Let me tell you something. You may not achieve every goal in 7 days, but you can become a different person in 7 days. You can shift your identity. You can shift your habits. You can shift your mindset. The external results will follow in time, but the transformation begins inside. If you spend 1 week making radical decisions and backing them up with radical action, you'll create a momentum that nothing can stop. Most people underestimate the power of short, focused intensity. They think transformation has to be slow, drawn out, and incremental. But consider this, if you lived with the same focus, discipline, and urgency in 1 week that you normally spread across an entire year, how different would your life look? Imagine waking up tomorrow and saying, for the next 7 days, I will think, act, and live as if my future depends on it, because it does. By the end of that week, you won't just feel different, you'll be different. The truth is, your life right now is the sum of the decisions you've made. And if you don't like what you see, it's not because life is unfair, it's because you tolerated too much for too long. Radical decisions are the cure for toleration. They force you to confront what you've been avoiding. They strip away the excuses. They silence the voice that says, maybe later. Radical decisions say now, today, no more waiting. So what does it look like to make radical decisions in 1 week? It means cutting off what no longer serves you, whether that's toxic people, destructive habits, or limiting beliefs. It means committing to actions that feel uncomfortable but necessary. It means elevating your standards to a level that forces growth. For example, if you've been stuck in procrastination, a radical decision might be waking up at 5 a.m. every day for a week and attacking your goals before the rest of the world stirs. If you've been living paycheck to paycheck, a radical decision might be saving or investing money before spending a single dollar on yourself. If you've been neglecting your health, a radical decision might be no junk food, no excuses, 7 days of clean eating and daily movement. What happens when you live like that for just 1 week? Your brain rewires, your self-image shifts. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start seeing yourself as a creator of destiny. And once you taste that power, you will never want to go back to your old life. The key is not waiting for the right moment. The key is to make the radical decision now and to sustain it with consistent action until your identity catches up. Here's the secret. Change does not take time, it takes courage. You don't need years to turn your life around. You need 7 days of fearless, focused commitment. 7 days of saying no to your excuses and yes to your higher self. 7 days of choosing discipline over comfort, purpose over distraction, and progress over procrastination. In 1 week, you can set in motion a chain reaction that alters the trajectory of your life forever. This is why so many people stay stuck. They think change is a matter of luck or timing. But the truth is, change is a matter of choice. A radical decision today creates a radical future tomorrow. And 1 week of bold decisions can make you unrecognizable, not because you've become someone new, but because you've finally become who you were always meant to be. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. The power of transformation lies in your hands, and it begins the moment you say, enough. 7 days, 7 decisions, 7 steps into the life you deserve. That's all it takes to start becoming unrecognizable. If you want to become unrecognizable in 1 week, you cannot just change your schedule. You must change your software. Your mind is the control center of your life. Every decision, every habit, every result you experience is simply the output of the programming you've been running for years. Most people try to change their lives by rearranging their external circumstances, new job, new diet, new goals, while still operating from the same old programming. It's like installing the latest apps on a computer that still runs on a broken operating system. No matter how shiny the apps look, the system crashes because the foundation is corrupted. If you want rapid transformation, you must reprogram your mind. The mind is both a servant and a master. If left untrained, it will enslave you to fear, doubt, and limitation. But if disciplined, it becomes the most powerful tool you possess. The first step in reprogramming your mind is awareness. You cannot change what you do not see. So take inventory of your thoughts. Pay attention to the constant dialogue happening in your head. What do you say to yourself when you make a mistake? What do you believe when an opportunity shows up? What stories do you repeat about who you are and what's possible for you? These stories are not harmless, they are commands to your subconscious. And your life will always align with the commands you give it. Now here's the truth. Most of those commands did not come from you. They came from parents, teachers, culture, failures, and painful experiences. Somewhere along the way, someone said you weren't good enough and you believed them. Someone told you success was for other people and you accepted it. Someone modeled fear, lack, or mediocrity and you copied it without even realizing. The good news is, if you learned those beliefs, you can unlearn them. If you adopted a program, you can delete it. If you downloaded a lie, you can uninstall it and replace it with truth. Reprogramming your mind starts with replacing every limiting belief with an empowering one. The old program says, I don't have what it takes. The new program says, everything I need to succeed is already inside me. If the old program says, I always fail, the new program says, every failure is feedback, and I rise stronger each time. If the old program says, it's too late, the new program says, this is the perfect time. Repetition cements these beliefs. You don't just say them once, you speak them every day until they take root. You feed your mind with new code until it overwrites the old. But belief alone is not enough. The mind rewires fastest through action. Every time you act in alignment with your new belief, you strengthen the program. When you push past fear and make the call, you confirm, I am bold. When you save money instead of spending recklessly, you confirm, I am disciplined. When you complete the workout, even though you're tired, you confirm, I am committed. The action reinforces the thought, and the thought empowers the action. This cycle of thought and behavior is how new identities are built. Another key to reprogramming your mind is environment. Your mind is like soil, and whatever seeds are planted will grow. If you constantly consume negativity, news that breeds fear, music that glorifies destruction, conversations filled with gossip, you are feeding weeds into your soil. But if you intentionally plant seeds of growth, books that inspire, mentors who challenge you, communities that uplift you, cultivate a mental garden that produces fruit, in 1 week, you can change what you consume and who you surround yourself with, and your mind will begin to shift immediately. Visualization is also powerful. The brain cannot distinguish vividly imagined experiences from real ones. That means when you visualize your future self, living with confidence, success, and impact, your brain begins to wire those images as reality. Spend a few minutes each day seeing yourself as unrecognizable, the person you want to be in 7 days. Feel the energy, hear the voice, see the environment. When you repeatedly visualize this identity, your subconscious begins to accept it as truth, and your actions naturally align to bring it into existence. Let me be clear, reprogramming your mind does not mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let your current reality dictate your future reality. The world may tell you that change takes years. Your past may tell you that you always quit. Fear may tell you that you'll fail again, but your reprogrammed mind tells you something different. It says, I am not my past, I am not my environment, I am not my fear, I am who I decide to be, and I decide now. That decision is the trigger for transformation. In 1 week, if you spend every day reprogramming your thoughts, speaking new truths, acting on new beliefs, surrounding yourself with new influences, and visualizing your new identity, you will not be the same person. You may still be in the same house, the same job, the same circumstances, but inside, you will have shifted. And once the inside shifts, the outside cannot resist. Circumstances bend to the power of a renewed mind. Understand this. The only reason your life looks the way it does is because your mind has been programmed to accept it. If you want more, you must expand your programming to expect more. In 7 days of focused, intentional reprogramming, you can lay a new foundation that will carry you into a life of abundance, purpose, and impact. So the question is, will you continue running the old script, the one that keeps you small, broke, and afraid, or will you install the new one? 1 week is enough to choose, enough to start, enough to become unrecognizable. Reprogram your mind, and everything else will follow. Transformation is not about big, dramatic moments that happen once in a lifetime. Transformation is about the small, consistent choices you make every single day. Most people want the results of change without embracing the discipline that produces change. They dream of being unrecognizable in a week, but they underestimate the power of daily action. If you want to shift your identity, if you want to break free from who you were and step into who you were meant to be, then discipline must become your best friend. Discipline is the bridge between intention and identity. The truth is, discipline is not punishment, it is freedom. It is the ability to control yourself so that your circumstances no longer control you. Without discipline, you live at the mercy of your feelings. If you feel tired, you quit. If you feel afraid, you hide. If you feel lazy, you do nothing. And then you wonder why your life never changes. Discipline steps in and says, feelings are temporary, but commitment is permanent. I will not let my emotions dictate my destiny. Discipline doesn't silence emotions, but it overrides them with a stronger command. To create a new identity in 1 week, you must practice daily discipline in 3 key areas: your body, your mind, and your environment. Your body is the first arena because it is the easiest to measure. When you wake up at the time you said you would, even if you don't feel like it, you're not just winning the morning, you're proving to yourself that you keep your word. When you exercise, even when your muscles scream, you're not just building strength, you're building identity. Every rep, every push-up, every step is saying, I am not who I was yesterday. I am disciplined. That identity begins to bleed into every other area of your life. Next is your mind. Discipline in the mind means you decide what you feed it. You discipline your thoughts the way a farmer disciplines his land, no weeds allowed. That means you stop letting random negativity, gossip, or fear-based noise plant themselves in your soil. Instead, you deliberately feed your mind truth, wisdom, and possibility. Discipline also means you train your focus. Instead of scrolling for hours, you read, you study, you learn. Instead of complaining, you solve problems. Instead of reacting, you respond. In 1 week, if you discipline your mental diet, you will notice your confidence rise, your energy shift, and your creativity expand. Finally, discipline extends to your environment. If your house is chaotic, it will drain your energy. If your workspace is cluttered, your focus will scatter. Discipline says, I will create order around me so I can create clarity within me. That means you clean the space, you organize the tools, you design your environment to support your growth. For example, if you want to eat healthier, don't rely on willpower to resist junk food. Discipline your environment by removing it from your house. If you want to read more, put a book where your phone used to be. When your environment is aligned with your goals, discipline becomes natural instead of forced. Now, here's the most important truth. Discipline creates identity. Every disciplined act you take is a vote for the person you are becoming. If you discipline yourself to wake up early, you cast a vote for being a consistent person. If you discipline yourself to save money, you cast a vote for being a wise steward. If you discipline yourself to work on your dream for an hour each day, you cast a vote for being a creator, not just a consumer. One vote won't change your identity, but hundreds of votes in one direction create a new story about who you are. And when your story changes, your destiny changes. This is why 1 week can make you unrecognizable. Because in 7 days of relentless daily action, you can cast dozens of votes for your new identity. 7 mornings of waking up with purpose. 7 workouts proving your body will obey your will. 7 days of speaking life into yourself instead of death. 7 days of disciplining your environment to support your greatness. By the end of that week, you won't just feel different, you will be different, because you've proven to yourself who you are becoming. But here's the challenge. Discipline is not glamorous. Discipline is not the highlight reel you see on social media. Discipline is the quiet work done when nobody is watching. It is the sacrifice of comfort for the sake of growth. It is saying no to what is easy so you can say yes to what is meaningful. It is trading instant gratification for eternal reward. And because it's not glamorous, most people quit before the transformation happens. They want the crown without the cross, the harvest without the planting, the result without the repetition. Understand this, your feelings will betray you, but discipline will save you. There will be days when you feel unstoppable and days when you feel like quitting. The difference between those who change and those who stay the same is not how they feel, it's how they act despite how they feel. If you act only when motivated, you will fail. But if you act because you are disciplined, you will win. Discipline is not about doing extraordinary things, it's about doing ordinary things consistently until they produce extraordinary results. Think about the bamboo tree. For years it shows no growth above the ground, but underground, roots are forming, discipline is happening, foundations are being laid. Then suddenly, in one season, it shoots up feet at a time. People call it overnight success, but it was years of unseen discipline that made it possible. Your 1 week of discipline is like that root system. It may not look dramatic to others, but it is forming a foundation that will launch you. By disciplining your daily actions, you no longer negotiate with your old self. You no longer let excuses speak louder than your purpose. You no longer tolerate behaviors that belong to the person you used to be. Discipline becomes the evidence that you are no longer attached to your past. In 1 week, if you embrace discipline with urgency and consistency, you can break free from old patterns and step boldly into a new identity. The disciplined person is unstoppable. They may not be the smartest, the fastest, or the most talented, but they will always outlast and outgrow those who rely on talent alone. Discipline turns weakness into strength, turns doubt into courage, turns chaos into clarity. It is the daily practice that makes your new identity undeniable. So if you want to become unrecognizable in a week, stop waiting for motivation and start living with discipline. Because at the end of the day, you don't become what you intend, you become what you do repeatedly. And when you discipline your actions daily, you don't just change what you do, you change who you are. Your habits are the invisible architects of your destiny. They shape your life more than your intentions, more than your dreams, more than your talents. Habits operate silently, consistently, and without fail. They are the daily agreements you've made with yourself, whether you realize it or not. And the truth is, if you want to become unrecognizable in 1 week, you cannot do it while dragging the same old habits that built the person you no longer want to be. You must break the chains of the old and deliberately construct new rhythms that align with the identity you are determined to step into. Most people underestimate the grip of habits because they think change comes from willpower alone. But willpower is like a candle. It burns bright, but it burns out quickly. Habits are like the sun. They rise every day, whether you feel like it or not. That's why you can't simply try harder and expect transformation. You must rewire your patterns. You must dismantle the autopilot scripts that keep pulling you back into yesterday. Because every time you repeat an old habit, you reinforce the old identity. Every time you break that habit, you weaken the chains. Every time you install a new rhythm, you strengthen the new self. Here's the challenge. Old habits die hard because they are familiar. Even destructive habits offer comfort because they are predictable. That late night scrolling that robs you of sleep, that procrastination that sabotages your goals, that junk food that steals your energy, they all feel safe because you've rehearsed them so many times. Your brain craves the familiar, even when the familiar is toxic. That's why the first step to breaking chains is awareness. You must identify the triggers that activate the old behavior. Do you scroll because you're bored? Do you procrastinate because you're afraid of failing? Do you eat because you're stressed? When you know the trigger, you can disrupt the cycle. Disruption is the key to breaking old habits. You don't just stop doing something, you replace it. If boredom triggers scrolling, replace it with reading 5 pages of a book. If stress triggers eating, replace it with a walk or a workout. If fear triggers procrastination, replace it with 5 minutes of focused action. The power of disruption lies in its ability to break the brain's expectation. Instead of running the old script, you write a new one. Over time, the new response becomes natural, and the old one fades. But breaking chains alone is not enough. You must build new rhythms, because nature abhors a vacuum. If you stop an old habit without replacing it, you will drift back to it when pressure hits. New rhythms are intentional practices you set in motion to anchor your transformation. They don't just happen, they are designed. A rhythm is not something you do once, it's something you repeat until it becomes part of you. Waking up early is a rhythm. Journaling your goals is a rhythm. Exercising daily is a rhythm. Speaking affirmations over yourself is a rhythm. These rhythms are the scaffolding on which your new identity is built. Think of your life like music. Old habits create noise. They keep you stuck in the same offbeat pattern, repeating the same tune that no longer serves you. But when you build new rhythms, you write a new song. Every rhythm you set becomes a beat that moves you forward. And when you stack rhythms, morning routines, daily disciplines, nightly reflections, you create a symphony of growth that drowns out the old noise. Your life begins to flow with harmony, order, and progress. Here's the secret. You don't need to build 20 rhythms at once. You only need to start with one or two powerful ones because momentum compounds. Maybe your rhythm is waking up 1 hour earlier to focus on your goals. That one rhythm creates space for clarity, focus, and productivity. Maybe your rhythm is replacing scrolling with reading. That one rhythm transforms your mental diet and expands your wisdom. Maybe your rhythm is journaling gratitude before bed. That one rhythm rewires your perspective and strengthens your resilience. Small rhythms stacked over time create massive transformation. This is why 1 week can make you unrecognizable. In just 7 days, if you consistently disrupt old habits and install new rhythms, you will not only feel different, you will begin to think and act differently. And when you act differently, your identity shifts. For example, if you spend 7 days waking up early, eating clean, exercising, journaling, and focusing on your goals, your brain will begin to say, "This is who I am now." That internal shift is what makes transformation sustainable. But let me warn you, breaking chains is not easy. The old self will fight back. The old habits will whisper, "Just one more time won't hurt." The old rhythms will pull at you like gravity. That's why you need vision and accountability. Vision gives you the why that fuels your discipline. Accountability gives you the guardrails to stay on track. When your vision is clear, you know exactly who you want to become. You can endure the discomfort of breaking chains. When you have accountability, someone or something holding you responsible, you are less likely to slip back into old patterns. Understand this. Every habit is a seed. Old habits plant weeds, new habits plant fruit. If you keep watering the weeds, don't be surprised when your garden is overrun. But if you start planting fruit-bearing habits, your life becomes a harvest of abundance. The choice is simple. Do you want weeds or fruit? Chaos or order? Regression or progression? Every action you take is a vote for one or the other. And here's the good news. You don't have to wait years to see the impact. In 1 week, you can taste the difference. Imagine how your energy feels after 7 days of clean eating compared to 7 days of junk food. Imagine how your focus feels after 7 days of journaling compared to 7 days of scrolling. Imagine how your confidence feels after 7 days of action compared to 7 days of procrastination. The change is immediate because habits don't just shape the future, they transform the present. Breaking old habits and building new rhythms is not just about productivity, it's about identity. It's about proving to yourself that you are no longer bound by the past. It's about demonstrating that you are the kind of person who chooses growth over comfort, progress over stagnation, destiny over familiarity. Every broken chain is evidence of your freedom. Every new rhythm is evidence of your transformation. So if you want to be unrecognizable in 1 week, look at your habits. Identify the chains, disrupt the triggers, and replace them with rhythms that align with your vision. Don't settle for the familiar when your future demands the extraordinary. Don't tolerate habits that belong to the person you used to be. Break the chains, build the rhythms, and watch how quickly your life begins to shift. Because the person you are meant to be is waiting, and the only thing standing in the way is the habits you choose today. There comes a point in transformation when you must stop looking backward and start walking forward. You cannot hold on to the old and reach for the new at the same time. You cannot keep your eyes fixed on yesterday and expect to see clearly where tomorrow is calling you. If you want to become unrecognizable in a week, you must take a decisive step into the identity of your future self. This is not about pretending, not about faking it until you make it. It's about aligning your actions today with the person you know you are destined to be. It's about living boldly, intentionally, and unapologetically as your future self now. The truth is, most people never fully step into their future self because fear holds them hostage. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of leaving behind the familiar. They know they want to change, but they keep dipping their toes in the water instead of diving in. They play small because small feels safe, even though safe is suffocating. What they don't realize is that fear is just an illusion, an image of a future that hasn't even happened yet. And the moment you act in faith instead of fear, that illusion loses all its power. Stepping boldly into your future self begins with clarity. Who is the person you want to become? What do they think like? How do they speak? How do they carry themselves? What decisions do they make when challenges arise? Clarity is power because you cannot live as who you were meant to be if you don't know who that is. So write it down. Define it in detail. Paint the picture so vividly that when you close your eyes, you can see your future self standing right in front of you. Once you have clarity, you must embrace courage. Boldness is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward in spite of fear. It is choosing to act even when your hands shake and your voice trembles. Courage says, I will not wait until I feel ready. I will move because I am called. You may not feel qualified, you may not feel prepared, but courage knows that preparation comes through participation. The moment you take the step, the strength arrives. Boldness is the spark that ignites transformation. But here's the key. Stepping into your future self is not just about how you feel, it's about how you act. Every action you take is a declaration of identity. When you act with confidence, even if you don't feel confident, you are telling your brain, this is who I am now. When you speak with authority, even if your voice shakes, you are training yourself to believe in your power. When you make decisions that align with your vision, even when they scare you, you are casting votes for your future self. Over time, those actions create momentum, and momentum builds identity. Think of it like this. Your future self is not waiting for you to arrive, it is waiting for you to awaken. It is already inside you, dormant, waiting for activation. Every bold step is an act of awakening. Every courageous choice is a door opening. Every moment you refuse to settle for the old, you unlock more of the new. And in just 1 week of living boldly as your future self, you will feel the shift. People will notice it. You will carry yourself differently. You will think differently. You will radiate a confidence that cannot be faked because it is rooted in truth. Now understand, stepping boldly into your future self also requires sacrifice. You cannot cling to old relationships that pull you backward and expect to move forward. You cannot indulge in old distractions and expect to stay focused. You cannot live by old excuses and expect new results. Sacrifice is not about loss, it is about exchange. You are not losing anything of value. You are trading the lesser for the greater. You are exchanging the temporary comfort of the old self for the eternal fulfillment of the future self. The beauty of this exchange is that it multiplies. Every sacrifice you make today plants seeds that grow into a harvest tomorrow. When you sacrifice laziness for discipline, you gain strength. When you sacrifice fear for faith, you gain courage. When you sacrifice distraction for focus, you gain clarity. The future self you are stepping into is not built on ease, it is built on these exchanges. And the more boldly you step into them, the faster your transformation accelerates. Another key to stepping boldly is vision alignment. Your future self is not random, it is connected to your purpose. You were designed for something specific, something only you can do. When you align your daily actions with that vision, you tap into an unstoppable force. Suddenly, discipline feels lighter because it's fueled by destiny. Sacrifice feels easier because it's tied to meaning. Courage feels stronger because it's anchored in calling. Living as your future self is not about striving, it's about surrendering to the purpose that was planted in you from the beginning. In 1 week, you can make this shift. You can decide today that the old self is gone and the new self is here. You can carry yourself with the authority of your future self. You can make decisions that align with your vision. You can speak words that match your destiny. You can take actions that reinforce your new identity. And when you do this consistently for 7 days, you will be unrecognizable, not because you faked it, but because you lived it. And let me remind you of this truth. The world is waiting on your future self. There are people who need the wisdom you will carry. There are opportunities that require the confidence you are about to develop. There are doors that will only open when you step up to knock as the person you were meant to be. Playing small not only cheats you, it cheats the world of what you were designed to contribute. Your boldness is not just for you, it is for every life your future self is called to impact. So today, make the decision. No more halfway, no more dipping your toe in the water, no more living as the shadow of your potential. Step boldly into the future self you were meant to be. Speak it, act it, live it, and watch how in just 1 week the world begins to see you differently because you finally see yourself differently. You are not who you were yesterday. You are not bound by the chains of the past. You are stepping boldly, powerfully, and unapologetically into the life you were always created to live.